The city on the alien world was covered in ice. Shadows stretched long across broken streets. The night wind cut like a knife, carrying sharp crystals of snow. Every corner smelled of hunger and cold. Even machines had stopped working. Frozen. In place, it was not a world made for humans, but he had nowhere else to go. The man walked slowly through the market square. His boots were torn, his jacket thin. Each step made his body shake, but he kept moving. He had only a few credits left. Almost nothing, enough for one meal or one blanket. His stomach growled, his lips were dry, but his eyes searched for something beyond food. The market was almost empty. Most stalls were closed, only a few lights flickered in the dark. Merchants wrapped themselves in heavy furs. They watched him with suspicion. Humans were not welcome here. He knew it well. But he was used to being unwanted. That was the life of an outcast, and then he saw her, an alien widow sitting on the cold stone floor. Her skin pale, almost silver in the moonlight, her eyes heavy with sorrow. Beside her sat a small child, both shivering, both weak. The child tried to hide under her mother's thin shawl, but the cloth was too small to block the cold. The man stopped. Something inside his chest tightened. He could feel their suffering as if it were his own. He remembered nights when he had nothing. Nights when he thought he would freeze to death. He had survived, barely, but he knew the pain of the cold. He knew the sound of hopeless shivering. The widow's eyes lifted. For a moment, their gazes met. She quickly looked away. She expected nothing from him. No one ever helped her kind. Widows of her race were left alone. People called them cursed. People said they were bad luck. And so she sat quietly, waiting for the night to end, even if it meant never waking up again. The man reached into his pocket. His fingers touched the last credit chip. It was so light, so small, but it was everything he had left. He thought of food, a warm bowl of soup. He thought of rest, one night without hunger. He thought of survival. And then he looked again at the widow and her child. Their lips were blue. Their hands trembled. The child coughed softly. The sound broke him inside. What kind of man would walk past them? What kind of man would eat while they froze? He turned toward the last open stall. The merchant glared at him but showed his goods, blankets, thick and rough, enough to fight the cold. The man placed his last credit on the table. The merchant laughed. "Only one human," he said. The man nodded, took the blanket, and walked back to the widow. She looked at him with wide eyes. Her child clung to her arm. He held out the blanket. His voice was soft. "Take it. Cover yourselves." For a moment she did not move. She thought it was a trick. No one gave her anything. Not for free, not with kindness, but the man kept standing there, his arm shaking from the cold but steady with the gift. Finally she reached out. Her hands touched the heavy cloth. She pulled it over her child, wrapping the little one tight. Then she drew it around her own shoulders. The warmth spread slowly. Her body stopped shaking. Her eyes filled with tears. She had hidden for years, she whispered, barely a breath. Why would you do this?" The man gave a tired smile. "No one should freeze alone." He turned before she could answer. His steps slow, heavy. He felt weaker than ever. He had given away the only thing that could save him. But his heart felt lighter. For the first time in years, he felt human again. That night he lay in the shadows of a ruined wall. The snow fell hard. He had no food, no blanket, no hope. The cold bit into his bones. His body trembled. His breath grew shallow, but he closed his eyes with one thought. He had done the right thing. The widow watched him from a distance, her child safe under the blanket. She wanted to call out. She wanted to stop him. But fear held her still. No one had ever helped her before. She did not know how to answer such kindness. She did not know if she deserved it. The man drifted into sleep, unaware of what tomorrow would bring, unaware that his one act of mercy would change both their lives forever. The night did not forgive. The cold pressed against every stone, every broken wall. The man's body trembled, his breath white against the dark air. He had nothing left. No food, no coins, no fire. Only the memory of the alien widow wrapping her child in the blanket he gave. That memory was his only warmth. His stomach cried in pain. It had been 2 days since he ate a real meal. Every bone in his body screamed for rest, but he kept walking. He knew if he stopped moving, he might never rise again. The streets were silent. Shops locked. Doors sealed tight. Nobody wanted to see a wandering human at this hour. Humans were not trusted here. They were called trouble, thieves, and beggars. Sometimes they were even hunted. The man lowered his head. He had learned long ago not to attract attention, but fate had a way of drawing eyes to him. A cough broke the silence. He turned and saw the widow again. She was still on the same corner. Her child was hidden under the blanket. Asleep at last, she sat awake, guarding, her silver skin glowing faintly under the moon. She looked fragile, yet unbroken, like glass that refused to shatter. The man wanted to leave. He had already given all he had, but his feet would not move. Something pulled him toward her. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, or maybe the strange feeling that his story was somehow tied to hers. The widow raised her head. Their eyes met again. This time she did not look away. "Why?" she asked in a whisper. Her voice was cracked like ice breaking on stone. "Why would a human waste his last coin on me?" The man was silent. He did not have a great answer, not one that would change worlds. At last he said, "Because you and your child are alive. Because I know how it feels to be forgotten." Her eyes widened. For a moment she looked like she might cry, but she held the tears back. She only nodded slowly, as if trying to believe his words. Then she said, "Come with me." The man frowned. He hesitated. No one had ever invited him anywhere without a price. It could be a trap. It could be her way of repaying kindness with betrayal. But the cold was cruel, and his body was weak. He followed, one slow step at a time. The widow led him down narrow streets past alleys filled with shadows, until they reached a crumbling stone house. It was small, the roof patched with broken metal, the windows cracked, but there was a faint light inside. She opened the door and motioned him in. The man stepped into the shelter. It was warmer than the streets, not much, but enough to keep breath from freezing. A tiny fire burned in a corner, made from scraps of wood and broken furniture. The child slept soundly near it, wrapped in the blanket. The widow looked at him. "You gave us warmth," she said softly. "Now, I give you mine." She offered him a piece of bread. Hard, dry, but food. The man stared at it. He had not tasted bread in weeks. His hands shook as he took it. "Why?" he asked. She gave a small smile. "Because you remind me of him." "Him?" the man asked. "My mate," she whispered. "He was kind. Like you. He died in the war. Since then, no one has looked at me with mercy. Not until you." Silence filled the small room. The man chewed the bread slowly. It was little, but it gave him strength. He looked at her and saw not just a widow, but someone carrying wounds invisible to the eye. The fire crackled. The wind howled outside. The widow sat down across from him. Her child stirred in sleep, mumbling softly. The man felt something strange. It was not safety, not yet. But it was the first time in years he did not feel alone. He leaned back against the cold wall, his body heavy with exhaustion, eyes closing, but before sleep took him, he whispered, "Thank you." The widow watched him drift off, her eyes thoughtful, troubled. She had taken a risk bringing a human into her home. If anyone discovered him, she could lose everything, her life, her child, her last hope. Yet she could not let him die on the streets, not after what he had done for her, not after the blanket. That night, as the storm raged outside, two broken souls shared one fragile peace, neither knowing how dangerous tomorrow would be, neither knowing that soldiers were already searching the city for hidden humans, and that soon their lives would be tied together in ways neither could escape. The storm outside grew stronger. Wind screamed through the cracks in the stone walls. Snowflakes slipped under the door, melting into tiny drops on the cold floor. The alien widow sat awake, her child pressed close under the blanket. Across the small fire, the human man slept, his body curled in exhaustion. His face looked pale, his lips almost blue. But even in weakness, he seemed calm, as if the small fire had given him peace. The widow watched him carefully. Her mind raced with questions. Why had he helped her? Why had he given away the last thing that could have saved him? Her people did not trust humans. Most said humans only took, never gave. But this one had done the opposite. He had given her warmth, even as he froze. She reached for a broken cup, poured a little hot water she had managed to heat on the fire. Then she placed it near his side. He stirred but did not wake. The widow sighed softly. Her heart ached with memories of her lost mate, the way he once shared fire and food with her. This man reminded her of that time, of kindness before war, and loss turned everything cold. The child shifted in sleep. "Mother," the little one whispered. "Is he safe?" The widow stroked the child's hair. "Yes," she answered quietly. "He is safe. He gave us the blanket. Now we keep him warm." The child smiled faintly in dreams. The widow looked again at the man. Safe? She was not sure, but she wanted to believe. Morning came slowly. The storm ended, leaving the world covered in white silence. The man woke with stiff movements, his body sore. He blinked at the roof, confused, then realized he was not outside. Anymore, the fire, the walls, the smell of bread were all strange but real. He sat up quickly, ready to run, but the widow raised a hand. "Wait," she said softly. "You are safe here." Safe. The word felt heavy in his chest. It had been years since he had heard it spoken to him. He nodded slowly. His eyes fell on the child, still wrapped in the blanket he had given. The sight warmed him more than the fire. The widow placed a piece of bread and a cup of water in front of him. "It is not much," she said, "but it is what I can give." The man looked at it. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to say she needed it more. But hunger was stronger than pride. He ate slowly, carefully, grateful for every bite. "Thank you," he whispered. Silence hung in the small house. The fire cracked. The child played quietly with a wooden toy. The widow finally asked, "What is your name?" The man paused. His name felt like a forgotten memory. Few ever asked. "Daniel," he said at last. Her lips formed the word. "Daniel," she repeated, testing the sound. Then she gave her own name. Lyra. Names spoken across the fire made the room feel less empty. For a moment, they were not strangers. For a moment, they were people, not enemies. But outside, danger waited. The sound of boots echoed in the street. Daniel froze. He knew that sound. Patrols, searching, hunting. Humans were not welcome. If they found him here, Lyra and her child would suffer too. He tried to rise. "I must go," he said quickly. But Lyra stepped in front of him, her eyes sharp. "No," she whispered. "They will kill you outside. Stay hidden." She pulled him toward the back of the house, a small storage space, dark and narrow. "Hide here," she said, pushing him inside. Daniel hesitated. "If they find me..." "They won't," she cut him off. Her voice carried both fear and strength. "You gave me warmth. Now I give you safety." The door slammed open. 2 soldiers entered, heavy boots thudding against the floor, their voices cold. "We search for humans. Report says one was seen near this street." Lyra stood tall, blocking the firelight with her body, her child pressed close against her leg. "There is no one here but me and my child," she said firmly. The soldiers moved around, eyes sharp. One of them kicked at the broken furniture. Another opened small boxes. Daniel held his breath in the dark. Every sound of boots made his heart pound louder. At last the soldiers gave up. "This place is worthless," one muttered. They pushed past Lyra and left, the door slamming behind them. Silence returned, heavy and sharp. Daniel stepped out slowly from hiding. "You risked your life," he said quietly. Lyra looked at him, her eyes steady. "You already risked yours." For the first time, Daniel smiled. A small, tired smile. He sat back near the fire. Lyra sat across from him, her child between them. Something had shifted. They were no longer just strangers in the cold. They were allies bound by danger and kindness. That night, the fire burned a little brighter. The blanket covered not only mother and child, but Daniel too. Lyra's hand brushed his by accident. Neither moved it away. And though the storm outside returned, inside the small house, warmth began to grow. A warmth not just of fire, but of trust. Of something neither of them had felt in years. The days after the storm moved slowly. Snow still covered the streets. But the patrols became fewer. The city looked quiet, but silence here was never safe. Every step outside could bring danger. Inside the broken house, however, something new was forming. Daniel stayed hidden most of the time. He fixed small things. For Lyra, cracks in the wall, holes in the roof. He gathered scraps of wood for the fire when no soldiers were near. Lyra shared food, little as it was. It was not much, but it was life. At first, they spoke little. Only short words, necessary words. But slowly, like ice melting, the silence began to break. Daniel told her about the world he came from. A green planet with warm sun and soft air. Lyra listened with wide eyes. Her child asked questions, innocent and curious. "Is it true humans swim in open water?" Daniel laughed softly. "Yes. Oceans as far as the eye can see." Lyra smiled at the sound of his laughter. It had been years since she heard such warmth in her home. Her mate had once laughed like that. For a moment, memory and present blurred. She quickly looked away, hiding her face in the firelight. At night, they often sat together in silence. The blanket covered them all. The child fell asleep first, safe and warm. Daniel and Lyra stayed awake, listening to the storm or the silence. No words were needed. The quiet between them grew gentle, not heavy, but Daniel noticed her scars, not just the ones on her arms, hidden under cloth, but the way her eyes sometimes turned empty, the way her hand trembled when she heard boots outside. One night he asked, "What happened to you?" Lyra froze, her lips pressed tight. For a long moment she said nothing, but the fire cracked. The night deepened. And finally, she whispered, "My mate was killed. The war took him. After that, I was nothing." Her voice shook. "People said I brought death, that I was cursed. No one wanted to help me. I was left alone with my child." Daniel lowered his head. He knew that pain. Not the same story, but the same emptiness. "I lost too," he said softly. "My people fought, and I lost everything. Family, friends, even hope." His eyes met hers, steady. "Maybe that's why I gave you the blanket, because I know how it feels to have nothing." For the first time, Lyra did not hide her tears. They slid down her silver cheeks, shining in the firelight. She quickly wiped them away, embarrassed. But Daniel only said, "You don't have to hide," and those words sank deep into her heart. From that night, their bond grew stronger. They spoke more freely. They laughed sometimes, softly. The child grew less afraid, smiling more often. The small house began to feel less like ruins, and more like a place where life could still exist, but danger never stayed far. One evening, as they shared a small meal, a loud knock struck the door. The sound froze all three of them. Daniel's hand went to the small knife he carried. Lyra grabbed her child, pulling close. The knock came again, harder this time. Voices outside shouted, "Open up, patrol check." Daniel's heart raced. He whispered, "I must go. If they find me here, you'll be punished." He started toward the back, but Lyra stopped him. Her hand gripped his arm, strong despite fear. "No," she whispered sharply. "They will kill you outside. Hide again. I will deal with them." The pounding grew louder. Lyra pushed Daniel into the dark storage space. She covered the door with a broken board, then straightened her shoulders, holding her child. The door burst open. Soldiers stormed inside. Their eyes scanned the room. "Any humans here?" one barked. "No," Lyra said calmly. "Only me and my child." The soldiers searched. They opened boxes, turned over broken furniture. One soldier came dangerously close to Daniel's hiding place. Daniel held his breath, heart pounding in. "His ears," the soldier kicked at the board. Lyra quickly spoke. "Careful! That wall will collapse if you touch it. The fire will go out." The soldier muttered, annoyed, and stepped back. After long minutes, they finally left. The door slammed shut behind them. Silence. Daniel emerged slowly, his face pale. "You risked everything," he said. Lyra looked at him, her eyes steady though her hand still shook. "So did you when you gave me the blanket." For a moment, they stood close, the firelight between them. The child hugged Daniel suddenly, small arms tight around him. "Don't leave us," the child whispered. Daniel froze. He looked at Lyra, uncertain. She did not speak, but her eyes said what her lips could not. They did not want him to go. That night, as the storm returned, outside the three of them shared the blanket together, their bodies close, their breaths warm. For the first time, Daniel felt not like a guest, not like an outcast, but like part of something, a fragile family. The bond was no longer just survival. It was something deeper, something that would soon be tested harder than any of them could imagine. The days after the patrol grew heavier, Daniel no longer felt like a stranger in the ruined house. But with every smile, every word shared, danger grew larger outside. The city was restless. Soldiers moved in tighter groups. Whispers spread that humans were being hunted more than ever. Daniel knew he should leave. He had stayed too long. If he was found here, Lyra and her child would suffer for his presence. But every time he thought of going, the memory of the child's arms around him, the look in Lyra's eyes when she said nothing but meant everything, those memories chained him in place. One evening, the fire burned low. The child slept early. Curled beneath the blanket, Daniel and Lyra sat close, the silence warm. But Lyra's hand trembled slightly. Her eyes kept glancing toward the door. Daniel noticed. "What troubles you?" he asked softly. Lyra hesitated, then whispered, "You do not understand what you mean to me now." Before Daniel could answer, there was another knock, slow, heavy, not the hurried fists of soldiers, but something quieter, more dangerous. Lyra stiffened. She whispered sharply, "Hide. Now." Daniel slipped back into the storage space. He crouched in the dark, his hand on his knife. The door opened. A tall alien man entered, his clothes marked with authority. Not a soldier, but close enough. "Lyra," the man said coldly. "You were seen with a human." Lyra's body froze, her face pale. Her child stirred awake and pressed closer to her. "There is no human here," she answered quickly, but her voice carried fear. The man stepped closer. His eyes swept the room. He sniffed the air like a predator. "You lie," he said. "Humans are being hunted. If one is found here, you and your child will be punished." Daniel gripped his knife in the dark. His heart thundered. He was ready to fight. But Lyra raised her chin, her voice sharper now. "You see my home. Do you see a human? Search if you must, but know this. If you destroy what little we have, you will be killing a widow and her child. Nothing more." The man glared at her. He stepped closer to the storage space. Daniel held his breath. One wrong move and all would end. The man stopped, his eyes narrowing, then he spat on the floor. "Be careful, Lyra. Mercy will not protect you. Next time we may not knock." He turned and left. The door shut with a slam that shook the walls. Daniel emerged from the shadows, his face tight with anger. "You risked everything again," he whispered. Lyra looked at him, her hand still, shaking but her voice strong. "I will not give you to them. Not after what you gave me. Not after what you gave us." Her child looked up at Daniel with wide eyes. "Will they take you away?" Daniel knelt down, his hand gentle on the child's shoulder. "Not if I can help it," he said. But his voice carried doubt, because deep inside, he knew the patrols would not stop. He had become a danger not only to himself but to them. That night, the three of them sat closer than ever, the blanket wrapped around all, the fire burning low. Outside, boots echoed faintly, soldiers moving from street to street. Daniel felt Lyra's hand brush against his. Her touch lingered this time, not by mistake but by choice. "I do not understand you," Lyra whispered. No one else would give their last credit to a widow and her child. No one else would stay when danger grows every day. "Why do you?" Daniel looked at her. His voice was quiet, steady. "Because I have nothing else, no family, no home, nothing to live for. Until now." Lyra's eyes filled with light and sadness all at once. She looked down, hiding her face. But the truth was already there. The bond between them was no longer hidden, it was alive, fragile, but real. A bond that both warmed and endangered them. As the fire died, Daniel lay awake staring at the ceiling. The words of the officer haunted him. "You were seen with a human. Had someone followed him? Had someone betrayed them?" He clenched his fists. If danger came again, he would not hide. He would fight, even if it cost him his life. Outside, the storm of snow returned. But inside, another storm was growing. Not of cold, but of love and fear. Daniel knew their lives were now tied together, and secrets, dangerous secrets, would decide whether they lived or died. The storm that night was the worst of the season. Snow piled against the door. The roof groaned under the weight of ice. Wind howled through cracks in the walls like a wild beast. Inside the small house, the fire burned weak, almost gone. But three hearts pressed close together, sharing what little warmth remained. Daniel lay awake. The child slept between them, small breaths, steady and soft. On the other side, Lyra sat with her arms wrapped tight around her child. Her eyes stared. At the fire, glowing faintly in the dark, Daniel could see the worry on her face. The patrols would return. He knew it. The officer's warning echoed in his mind. You were seen with a human. He wanted to leave to protect them, but his heart refused. Leaving meant returning to emptiness, to cold nights with no reason to fight. And more than that, leaving meant tearing himself away from the fragile warmth that had grown here. A warmth stronger than any blanket, stronger even than the fire. The wind pushed harder at the walls. Lyra shifted closer. Her shoulder brushed his. Neither moved away. Daniel could feel her trembling. Not just from cold, but from fear, he whispered. They will not harm you while I breathe. Lyra turned to him, eyes shining in the firelight. You speak like a soldier, she said softly. Daniel gave a bitter smile. I was once, until war took everything. Silence hung for a moment, then Lyra whispered. I was a wife once, until war took him. Their eyes met. No more words were needed. The silence between them was heavy with pain, but also with understanding. Two souls scarred by the same cruelty of fate. Two souls finding each other in the ruins. The child stirred, mumbling in sleep. Lyra pulled the blanket higher over the little one. Daniel helped, tucking it close. Their hands touched. This time, neither. Pulled away for a moment, they held on. The storm outside seemed to fade. Only the warmth of their hands remained. Days passed. The storm kept them trapped inside. Daniel fixed small things, patched the roof, built the fire higher. Lyra cooked what little food they had. The child laughed more. Even in the middle of hunger and fear, laughter returned to the broken house. At night, Daniel told stories of Earth, of oceans and forests, of warm skies where snow never fell. The child listened with wide eyes. Lyra listened too, though she tried to hide her smile. One night, the child fell asleep quickly. Daniel and Lyra sat by the fire. The blanket wrapped around them both. The silence between them was not empty anymore. It was full of things they could not yet say. Lyra's voice broke the quiet at last. When you came, I thought you would bring only trouble, but you brought life back into this house. Daniel's chest tightened. And you gave me something I thought I lost forever, he said quietly. What? She asked. Home, he answered. Her eyes softened. Tears shone but did not fall. She leaned closer. Daniel's heart pounded. For years he had carried nothing but grief. For years she had carried nothing but loneliness. Now in this moment the weight lifted. The fire glowed brighter. And for the first time warmth was not only from the flames, it was from love. But love was dangerous here. Each day soldiers searched harder. Each night, boots echoed closer. Whispers spread that rewards were offered for turning in humans. Daniel knew someone had seen him. It was only a matter of time. He told himself he should go. But every time he looked at Lyra, every time the child's small hand reached for him, his resolve broke. He could not leave, not anymore. One evening, heavy boots marched again outside. Voices shouted in the distance. Daniel stood, knife in hand, but Lyra stopped him, her hand tight on his arm. You cannot fight them all, she whispered, her eyes fierce. If you leave, they will take you. If you stay, they will kill us all. But if we stay together, maybe we can find a way. Daniel stared at her. You would risk everything? I already have, she said simply. The child stirred, frightened by the noise. Daniel knelt, his voice gentle. Do not fear. As long as I am here, no one will harm you. The child pressed close against him. Lyra watched, her heart torn between fear and something stronger. For the first time since the war, she dared to hope that love could survive even in the coldest winter. That night, as snow fell heavy outside, Daniel, Lyra, and the child shared the blanket together. No longer strangers, no longer bound only by survival, but by something deeper, a bond that gave them strength to face the darkness ahead. The storm outside howled, but inside the ruined house the warmth of love burned brighter than any fire. The snow did not stop. It buried the streets, covered the roofs, and silenced the city. But silence here was never safety. It was the pause before the storm, and Daniel knew the storm was coming. Each day, soldiers searched harder. Each night, boots marched closer. The officer's words echoed in his mind. You were seen with a human. It was only a matter of time before they came again. And this time they would not leave empty-handed. Daniel stood by the window. He looked out at the empty street. His hand rested on the knife at his side. Behind him, Lyra fed the fire. Her child pressed close to her. She tried to act calm, but Daniel saw the truth in her trembling hands. Fear lived in all of them now. He turned to her. I cannot stay, he said firmly. Her eyes snapped to his, wide with shock. If I stay, they will kill you and the child. I cannot let that happen. Lyra shook her head. No, if you go, they will catch you. Alone you will die. Daniel's voice dropped, heavy. Better me than all of us. The child ran to him suddenly, small arms wrapping around his waist. Don't go, the little one cried. Daniel froze, his heart twisting. He placed a hand on the child's head. Softly, he said, sometimes to protect the people we love, we must walk away. But even as the words left his lips, he knew he was lying to himself. He had walked away from too much already. He had lost family, friends, his world. Now when he finally had something worth holding again, could he truly leave? That night the knock came. Hard, sharp, final. The soldiers were back. Voices shouted, Open the door. By order of the council, all homes will be searched. Lyra's face went pale. Her child whimpered. Daniel drew his knife, ready to face them, but Lyra grabbed his arm. No, she hissed, they will kill you. You cannot fight them all. The pounding grew louder. The door shook. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then I will not hide, he said. I will not let them hurt you because of me. He stepped toward the door, but Lyra blocked him. Her eyes burned with fierce light. If you walk out alone. Her voice shook, but her body stood firm. We stay together. Whatever comes. The soldiers burst inside. Snow swirled in with them. Their weapons glowed, aimed at Daniel. Human, one spat, on your knees. Daniel stood tall, his knife ready. But Lyra stepped forward, her arms spread wide in front of him and her child. No, she said, her voice sharp as steel. "You will not take him." The soldiers sneered. "A widow protects a human? You are a traitor to your kind." Lyra did not flinch. "He is my kind now," she said. Her words echoed through the room like fire. For a moment the soldiers hesitated. The sight of a widow defying them was rare, but orders were orders. One soldier raised his weapon. Daniel lunged. The fight was fast, brutal. Daniel's knife struck, the weapon fired. The house filled with light, screams, and smoke. When silence returned, the soldiers lay fallen. The fire crackled weakly. Snow drifted. Through the broken door, Daniel fell to his knees. His chest heaving, Lyra rushed to his side. Her child clung to both of them, crying. They were alive. For now, Daniel looked at Lyra. "I told you, I could not let them hurt you." Lyra shook her head, tears falling freely. "And I told you, you would not face this alone." The three of them held each other. The fire almost gone, but warmth filled the room stronger than ever. They had no safety, no future promised. But they had made their choice. Not to run, not to hide, but to stand, together, whatever storms came next. Later, as night fell, they lay under the blanket, the same blanket that had begun everything. Once a gift of mercy, now a symbol of love. The child slept between them, peaceful at last. Lyra rested her head against Daniel's shoulder. He closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he felt peace. A man who had given his last credit to save a stranger had gained something greater than coins, greater than survival. He had found a family, he had found love, and in the frozen heart of a merciless world, that love was warmer than any fire.